Welcome back, everyone. Craig Steger here, and I'm the trucking lawyer. I want to talk today about five things, and there may be more, but five things that I want to share with you as truckers, as owner operators, as families, things that I've learned as a trucking attorney, as someone who has represented people involved and injured in truck accidents for a number of years. There's a number of things that I've learned that I want to share with you that will hopefully help make trucking safer for you, for your family, for those that share the road with you, and also to protect you from a financial standpoint if you are unfortunate enough to be involved in crash or some sort of trucking related injury. So if you spend any time watching TV or listening to the radio, you may have heard advertisements for lawyers looking for trucking cases. There is a lot of money spent advertising on billboards, on TV, on radio every year for a number of reasons, especially for trucking cases, because the large firms that handle these cases see these as being worth a lot more money than your run-of-the-mill car accident case. And so they spend a lot of time and money trying to go after these cases. And so there's some things I want you to keep in mind. So number one is one of the reasons why big law firms, the billboard firms, go after trucking cases is they know that because trucking is dangerous, because trucks are large, they often result in more serious injuries when crashes do happen. They understand that there are a lot of regulations that truckers have to follow, rules that you have to know, and rules that you have to follow. And there's lots of ways that you can violate some of those rules, even if you're a pretty hardworking, careful trucker. There are just lots of things that can happen that can give these law firms an edge, an advantage to go after you and your insurance. So they usually involve bigger injuries and, as you probably know, involve larger insurance policies. You probably have a much larger insurance policy on your truck because you have to than you do on your car or your pickup truck. So this is why there's a lot of competition amongst the billboard firms and other big law firms who are outgunning for trucking cases because they see them as worth more money and they go after these cases. There's a couple other things I want you to think about as well. Now, one thing that I've learned in handling these cases is that oftentimes the big firms will go after the trucking company and look for a villain. Look for a villain, someone who is trying to make more money, cut costs, skimp on safety, training, things like that. Maybe they're pushing their drivers to drive too many hours, drive too many miles, skip important inspections, things like that. And that is actually good for most truckers because the target is the trucking company. But what it does is it often puts the truckers in the middle of that and can often be the kind of the pawns, if you will, in these cases against the trucking companies who are trying to make look like villains to increase the amount of money these lawyers can recover. But it's really important to understand where you fit into that. Are you an owner operator? Are you an employee of a large trucking company? What is their safety standards? How much do they invest in training, in safety equipment, keeping their equipment that you use, keeping it safe and operational? The things you want to keep in mind when you're deciding whether to work for a particular company or with a particular company or haul freight for a particular broker. These are things that you definitely want to keep in mind when you're making these decisions, because if a crash happens, you're all going to sort of be in the same boat together. Third thing that I've learned in trying these kinds of cases, and now having gone through my own training and having gotten my Class A CDL, is most lawyers don't actually understand trucking, not even a little bit. All they know is that these trucks are bigger and they know that they have bigger insurance policies, but they really don't understand what it's like to drive a semi. And some of them, and I'm not going to name names, but some of them will take some off-road classes to get certified. Maybe they'll drive a truck on a closed course and they'll get a little certificate and they'll put the picture on their website and show how they know how to drive a truck. We know that's not enough. I know that's not enough. And I know because I went through the same thing that you did. I went through the exams, studied, did the driving class, and got my Class A CDL. Most lawyers just don't understand what it takes to be a trucker, what it takes to get licensed, what it takes to be safe. And that is to your advantage as the trucker, but it's all the more important that you be following the rules, that you're being safe, that you're not on your phone when you're driving, you're not drinking, you're not violating hours of service, all that kind of stuff. Follow the regulations and use the regulations to your advantage. Protect yourself by following the regulations, as annoying as they can be sometimes. Another thing that I've learned, and I think this is really important, something I really want to emphasize, is I think one of the most important things you can have in your truck is a dash cam. I don't know how common it is to have dash cams, to have video footage. I see a lot of truckers that have YouTube channels, TikTok channels. I follow them. I like watching the videos, but I think you have to be very careful with that. If you're doing it and you're recording yourself doing things that are not that safe, if you're on your phone or you're doing things that are you're distracted. But if you have a dash cam, the nice thing about a dash cam, especially if it covers what's in front of you and what's going on inside, then if a crash happens, there's no question about what happened leading up to the time of the crash and in the crash itself. Now, that could damn you if you're the one that was at fault and you are not paying attention, you're on your phone or you're falling asleep or something like that. But if that's not the case, the greatest piece of evidence that you have is a dash cam footage showing the car that pulled out in front of you, or showing that you were alert and you tried hitting brakes as soon as there was sign of something going on ahead of you. All of that can be preserved in a good dash cam, and they're not that expensive. And if your employer doesn't have it, get one yourself. I have one in my own car. I think it's the Van True. Can't remember the model number. It's a very good one. It records forward in the cab and actually has a rear camera that I don't have installed, and it probably wouldn't help you much on a semi, but it's constantly recording. It's loop recording in front of the truck and inside the cab. And when something happens, if there is a crash, when I hit a speed bump or a pothole, it sends a signal and it saves that. So it's always recording the footage. But then if there is a crash event or something like that, it locks it down and makes it really hard to delete it. So I would really, really encourage drivers to have a dash cam. If the company you work for doesn't have them, ask them why. Why are they afraid to have a dash cam? And if they don't provide them, but they will let you, I would really encourage you to have those dash cams, and then use that as a motivation to be safe. Use that as a reminder not to pick up your phone and text someone while you're on the road. Use that as a motivation to be paying attention, to being alert, to be following carefully and watching for other traffic and driving defensively. So use a camera to your advantage. A camera is probably the most significant thing that can help set the facts straight and reveal the truth of a crash if and when it happens. So I'm a big fan of cameras, and I really encourage you to get one. And if I think of it, I'll put a link to the one I use in the description if you want something to compare options to. Finally, and this is one thing that I kind of learned over the course of my work handling these kinds of cases and doing focus groups prior to trials, is juries actually like truckers. And that is, I think, a credit to them understanding the type of work that you do, the difficulties of the work that you do, and also the importance and value of the work that you do for society. I have seen cases where it was clear to me, almost undisputably clear, the driver of the truck was the one that made the mistake. They didn't stop at a stop sign, or they pulled out into traffic when there wasn't a clear opening or things like that. But oftentimes juries are sympathetic to the truck drivers in those situations. And this is especially true if the company that hired these people, the employer, whatever, is almost requiring or incentivizing drivers to do unsafe things or discouraging them from taking safety steps. Juries do tend to protect truckers if they are acting reasonably and you're not doing something super obviously dangerous, like being on your phone and texting and things like that, not drinking and driving, that kind of stuff. That's another thing that I've learned, but it's really important to maintain that and justify that perception by being a safe driver, by slowing down, being very defensive, watching out for all the crazy cars and trucks on the road that are in and out of traffic and pulling in front of you and stopping suddenly, all those things. It's really, really important to be vigilant and defensive, so that if a crash happens, you can defend yourself and show this wasn't my fault. And if you yourself are injured as a result of someone else's fault, you then have the ability to pursue a claim yourself. And that's where the dash cam can be really, really important. One of the reasons I do all this is I genuinely want to help make trucking safer. Safer for the truckers, safer for their families, safer for everyone that shares the road with truckers. I sincerely believe we can and should try to make trucking safer, and I hope that I can help you do that. And also, I care very deeply about helping people hurt, truckers and their families or others hurt when it isn't safe, when people do get injured. Those are the kinds of people that I help. So I appreciate you watching this. If you have any questions or comments about any of that, feel free to leave a comment below. Send us a message. If you have a particular case, situation you need to talk to a lawyer about, don't leave a comment. Just go down to the description. My contact information is always there. I'm always happy to talk to people and help you out. And if I can't help you out, maybe point you in the direction of someone who can help you out. So I hope you enjoy this content. Like and subscribe if you found it useful. Otherwise, stay tuned. Until next time, everyone. And until next time, have a good one.